As most of you know, there was a huge shakeup with the EPA, and I'm happy to report that they're not going to be enacting any more stricter emissions, hopefully for the foreseeable future, because if you don't know, we already have way too much on trucks as it is. Now, some of you guys have been really active in the comment section. Some things I've been seeing quite often is, I can't wait to delete my truck. It's now legal, which not really. But a lot of you guys are saying you're holding off to buy a truck until they start delivering them without the emission stuff. So I want to talk about that in this video, and I had an idea. I think that the manufacturers have gold right now. If they were to do this, oh my goodness, they would just make every truck owner happy currently. And of course, if they did decide to make all the emission stuff optional, that would be even better. But who are we kidding? No one would ever select the box for emissions control unless they gave a huge discount on the truck, like on like a credit, basically, like a tax credit, you know, maybe some businesses would do that, but majority won't. Now, let me make this point really quickly. I am not against some of the emissions control. I'm not. I think that we should have some things there to help with the environment. I don't think that it's a bigger deal that they made out of it, but for the most part, there should be something there that works for the consumer and for the environment. It shouldn't just be one-sided, right? Now, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna read some of the emission control features that are on the truck right now. That way you have an idea. We'll go through it really quickly. It won't be boring. You'll learn something. And then I'm gonna give you guys what I believe to be the greatest idea for the manufacturers. This would be just groundbreaking. They would make a ton of money, and I think everyone would be on board with this. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Now let's talk about SCR. This is probably one of the first emissions controls that we saw. This was actually developed in the 1950s. You'll see it right here. I have Google up here, and it says SCR, selective catalytic reduction. It's a technology that was developed in the 1950s, was first applied to NOx emissions control in power plants in the 1970s, and then introduced into diesel engine after treatment systems in the 1990s. So yes, catalytic converter, you guys have heard of that. So this was some of the emissions control that started off in diesel. So NOx, that is the biggest issue that the EPA was trying to fix, right? That was what they were going after. They wanted to lower the NOx coming out of our trucks, specifically diesel engines. Up next is DOC, so diesel oxidation catalyst. This is something also that was enacted a long time ago. So in the 1970s, they used this for underground mining applications, and then later in the 1990s for PM emission reductions, with retrofits becoming common in the 1990s and 2000s. So our trucks do have both of these emissions controls. So these are the first two that came up early on. Up next is everyone's least favorite. Even back then, when the older trucks were getting these emission things, which is EGR, they were already coming up with deletes for this because they just didn't want gunk and junk going back into their engine. And that's what exhaust gas recirculation is. So this came out in October 2002. Several heavy-duty engine manufacturers introduced their new EPA-certified engines equipped with the EGR systems. There was a considerable apprehension in the field regarding the performance, fuel economy, and the durability of these new engines. So that's why a lot of guys were going in and cutting that crap out of their truck. Up next, I'm not against DPF, but again, like I said earlier, it has to work for the consumer as well for the environment. Now, if someone doesn't want the DPF on their truck and they decide they want to do weight loss program, they should have the right to take that restrictive pipe off their truck, 100%. So DPF is diesel particulate filter. This is probably the biggest issue that our diesels have when it comes down to just waste. If your diesel truck is not driven enough on the highway for long periods of time, specifically under load. If you are driving your truck, your truck can still do regens even if you're loaded, but for the most part, if you're towing often on the highway a lot, your DPF probably will not get full at all. It'll probably never get over 30% in some cases. But yes, if you're someone who lives in the city or just doesn't tow that much, the diesel particulate filter is a problem, because in order to clean it, it has to go into a regen. And in order for that regen to happen, it needs to use diesel. So that diesel you pump in your truck and spend a lot of money for, that's what it's using to clean that stupid filter. But I'm not against DPF because it does make sense. It does help with the environment for the most part, with soot, things like that. And so maybe, just maybe, if it was legal to take it off if you didn't want it in your truck, I'm okay with that, because some guys will keep it on there. Now, I wouldn't keep it on there either, but my point is, it would be an option for guys who just don't care about these things. Last but certainly not least, 2010. Who remember what happened that year? Yes, DEF was introduced in 2010 when the Environmental Protection Agency tightened its emission standards on diesel machines. It is part of the selective catalytic reduction system, which drastically reduces the amount of pollution emitted from vehicles. So diesel exhaust fluid, and that's kind of why diesels today smell like water from the tailpipe, because of this, I guess you can call it, science project. And if you have never seen DEF before, go to a truck stop. It's all that white crap on the ground. It's disgusting stuff. I think it's like, isn't it like cow piss or something? Something nasty. And yes, this here was probably the nail in the coffin for some diesel owners. And I truly believe the reason why they enacted a lot of these things is because, yeah, of course, they were trying to keep people from buying diesel engines. I think that's the main reason why they were doing that. If people were just buying diesel trucks just to be cool, then they want to reduce that. But I'm gonna get political here in a second. So if you wanna mute me, I'll give you a thumbs up when I'm done, okay? I'll give you a thumbs up. But I truly believe that in America, there's been a shift in how they want men to be viewed here. It seems like they want men to be more feminine. I'm just being honest with you guys. Doesn't make sense. As I said, I think that most men back in the day who bought these trucks, it was like a manly thing to do. You know, when you were in a conversation with another guy, they asked you what kind of truck you had. Oh, yeah, I had a diesel truck, right? That was just something that people did. They bought diesel trucks because it was cool, because it was manly. But today, when you think about diesel engines, they're not that anymore because they're just so neutered, right? So yes, I'm done. I think that at the end of the day, emission control has its place, but it needs to be regulated to the point where it all makes sense for the consumer and for obviously the environment. So when I was thinking about this video yesterday, I had the greatest idea. The manufacturers have never used their biggest secret weapon, which is the consumer. I truly believe that when the manufacturer were going down this road with the EPA, they just did this, smiled and nodded. Now, I do know that the manufacturers probably got a lot of kickback, got a lot of money from the government, and therefore that's why they just kind of screwed over the consumers with all this emission crap, because the trucks are more unreliable. And as I said earlier, you know, if you are someone that uses a truck for what a truck is built to be used for, DPF could be a problem for you. DEF is expensive over the course of time, especially if you do tow often. And so with EGR putting crap back into your engine, you could have drivability issues. That's why there were so many concerns about EGR back in the day, because it just seemed like it was going to rob the truck from performance and, again, reliability. But the manufacturers could have always used the consumer to help fight these battles. See, I'm not against, going out and protesting against foolishness. This emission control stuff has gotten out of hand. And remember, Biden wanted to tighten up even more on emissions things. I mean, they were talking about putting particulate filters on gas engines. So they were really going hard in the paint with this stuff. But the manufacturers should have used their biggest supporter, which is the consumer. I can't tell you guys how important it would have been for them to include people and said, hey, here's what the government is rolling out. They want to probably, again, I don't know if this is true, but they probably passed on some money to the manufacturers to do these emissions controls. And so they took the money, and this is where we are today. But they should have reached out to the consumer. We're the ones who have to buy the trucks. And I truly believe that if they would have used their ace card in fighting against this stuff, we would not be where we are today. Consumer confidence is low. I'm serious when I say this. A lot of people, when they're getting their trade-in values on these trucks now, it's not how it was during the pandemic. It's that ship has sailed. You buying and selling a truck today, within a year or so, you're going to take a hit. You're going to take one. That's why I'm not doing it anymore. I'm like, I'm done, because it's just not, it's not sustainable. So yes, the manufacturers need to come together with us. They have a president who can probably get these things done and offer a delete kit from the manufacturer. That way we can keep our warranty if you get a truck brand new. And on top of that, you can get remapping for the ECU, and they can sell the parts. How much money could they make if they were to offer these things? How many guys would line up today to go to the dealership? They would probably be out of stock for months and months and years because of the amount of guys who would want to do this. Now, obviously, it can't be $15,000. It would have to be a reasonable cost. But the truth of the matter is, we know that you have delete kits. We know that. We know that you have the mapping for the ECU. That way you could turn off these systems, because the government vehicles have these things. We know that. So how hard would it be for them to offer a kit, even if it was $5,000? I'd pay the $5,000, because if I kept this truck for 5 to 10 years, I could probably make a lot of that back up with just the fuel efficiency from the engine. So they should do this. You have the consumer to have your back. And who knows, if you guys were to get, if we were to sign something, petition for this, if you didn't get enough signatures, if you didn't get enough people to support you, I would support monthly to do this. Seriously, I would support monthly the manufacturers to roll something out like this and literally stand up to the government if the blue people come back again and try to reenact all this BS. I'm willing to stand with them and fight against it, because again, there are some people who don't mind having emissions control. Some people don't even know it's on their truck. They just know they have to put DEF in their truck and diesel in the truck. That's it. There's nothing else you would ever really notice about an old versus new diesel if you're just not looking. So some people will never delete their truck, but there are guys out there who would. And it would be nice to know that the manufacturers had our backs to offer these kits that they already have to the consumer. And you already have a president who's probably able to get this done and even probably block it from being overwritten in the future. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. I think this would be a great idea. I think a lot of people would be excited about buying a truck. Consumer confidence would be at an all-time high. And it would seem like the manufacturers cared about us, the guys spending literally $100,000 for these trucks. And they're not reliable anymore. I mean, look at GM. GM's oil coolers are failing in the Duramax. The 10-speed transmission ain't that great. Ford is still running a CP4, and they don't really plan on getting away from it, because they probably can't, because that CP4 is able to allow them to run the power that they have, with that fuel pressure. And even with Ram trucks, I mean, currently 24 and earlier pickups are having cam lifter failures. So there's just all those issues we have to deal with too. On top of that, having emissions control stuff go down, I mean, it's really time for the manufacturers to go back and say, we need to really make stuff that works, and we need to bring back that consumer confidence. See you guys in the next video.